Good day. Thank you for joining us to share the 40th episode of the Frankly Speaking Jamaica podcast. I will share with you a sign of Jamaicans wanting to run away, and I'll remind you at the same time of the good there is in us. Krissy stands with Dr Horace Chang on police making sure to kill gunmen who fire on them. And Desmond Richards looks at failed promises on those who suffer from floods. Now, to Frankly Speaking, the commentary. 2 Thursdays ago, there was a major incident on the North Coast when thousands of young people turned up for an appointment overseas work. People are still trying to understand what happened when an unruly crowd forced the premature end of the recruitment process early afternoon in Ocho Rios. Thousands of people descended on and outside the premises of the Sentan Chamber of Commerce in Pineapple, Ocho Rios, Sentan, in response to an ad from a private employment agency. It was recruiting for some 12 US employers who want experienced workers in the hotel industry for jobs in the United States. Now, the local company doing the recruitment, frankly speaking, has a good reputation in handling these jobs in the US. But the numbers of people turning out this time and the disorder, possibly fueled by a little shower, shocked everybody. The pushing and boring, the disregard for forming lines, the swearing and bad behavior was, frankly speaking, more than they had seen. Half a dozen police officers deployed were overwhelmed, and by 1 o'clock, the police called a halt to it.
Look, on a job fair, they expect you to get work. Now, you that take over, man. Saki do not look good. I need to do something for you. You don't look good, chief. God, no. Look on the job fair, I'm there watching. So, I look some international work, but I don't look good, chief.
People came from all parts of Jamaica, with some from as far as Westmoreland, to be recruited to work in the United States. A huge number of applicants, including supervisory level people from top hotels, meant that on that Thursday morning, many resorts, including some in Ocho Rios, were left short-staffed. Managers from different departments had to serve tables that morning and clear away plates as their staff reported absent to get on board with a chance to work in the US. It was a sight to behold at that place, where they were simply in the first steps of it, taking applications, certifications, recommendations, not stamping off on anybody. Traffic came to a halt in the area of Pineapple. It's not enough to say people want to run away. Employment, if you are in the hotel and catering business, is not hard to get on Jamaica's North Coast. But these young people mostly want to go away and want the type of money paid by the overseas employers. Now remember, this is the leading sector for foreign exchange earning in Jamaica, the tourism sector. And the employers love the Jamaicans already trained and skilled. Frankly speaking, this recruitment call-up was really for people with experience, cooks, housekeepers, bike mechanics, the works. Now, people living between St. Mary West through to St. James, that tourism belt, find it easy to get work with the hotel expansion taking place. But they complain, frankly speaking, about the money. And there are loads of vacancies in the BPO sector too. But again, the complaint is about the money. How they're going to live in Jamaica on what they earn. Overseas is what they want. And if you live in Jamaica, you must be aware of the huge desire of people of all economies and different geographies who want to run away from this beautiful country. Frankly speaking, you may read into that what you will. And it's not just about work. That crowd in Ocho Rios 2 Thursdays ago. Now, to Crystal Cameron about another sign of the times. Shooting to kill.
When Jamaica gained its independence in 1962, the murder rate was 3.9 per 100,000 people, one of the lowest in the world. By 2005, there were 1,674 people murdered in Jamaica for a murder rate of 58 per 100,000, the highest murder rate in the world. And so in November 2008, the Jamaican Parliament voted to retain the death penalty. But Jamaica hasn't hung a person since 1988, so we can sentence all we want. I'd be shocked if the Privy Council opposed a death sentence in Jamaica in my lifetime. Shocked. Our current Minister of National Security, Dr Horace Chang. What Dr Chang thinks is, anytime a man take up a gun after a police officer, I expect Commissioner Anthony Anderson to train them so that when him fire, him don't miss. I'm not telling any policeman not to fire back. I'm not sending any ambulance out there either, said Chang, noting that gunmen must be prepared to face the consequences of their actions. I don't want him come and give trouble to the hospital. I'm not into that business. You go to hospital and it costs us $10 million to save your life. I'm not into that. When the police come, he must surrender. Can see all the ways in which a shoot-to-kill practice could be corrupted and infringe on the rights of the innocent. But to stop contract killings by corrupt police being cloaked under this order, couldn't that easily be used as a pretext to stamp out political or business competition? But then, my next thought is that crime in Jamaica is a big, disgusting problem. And can anything solve it without being just as big and disgusting? Perhaps you require a terrible monster to kill another terrible monster. Maybe we need legal guns to kill illegal guns. End their lives to save our lives. Let's just call it what it is. These criminals are heartless, ruthless, and so far as our suffering goes, they couldn't care less. How many were responsible for killing those 17,093 Jamaicans in those 13 years? Between 2009 and 2021, 17,093 Jamaicans murdered. And how many of those Jamaican lives could have been saved by the killing of one rabid dog? The highest murder rate in the world? Do you realize what that means? It means that we're more likely to get murdered than anyone else in the world. We're literally being killed off, yo. These gunmen and dons, they've essentially created their own government and have their own platoons guarding their usurped territories. They terrorize and enslave citizens living under the Jamaican government. And as such, they've declared war on our asses. They've sown the wind, and now it's past bloody time to reap the bloody whirlwind. I'm with Minister Chang and Jamaica. We need to proportionately respond against these invaders, bullet for bullet. If you insist on warring against us, then you are not one of us. When you fall in service of your criminal government, we have no duty to save your life. Let them build hospital and save you, or ask for salvation from Jesus after you rightfully lose the hand you dared to raise against the Jamaican public.
That's Crystal Cameron, creative and businesswoman. And now, Desmond Richards.
Yes, good news. The storm has changed its course. But I want to urge all Jamaicans, especially those living on the margins, those living in flood-prone communities, who have been the victims of flooding and hurricanes in Jamaica, not to drop their guards. Between 1951 and 2008, approximately 234 poor Jamaicans, sons and daughters of ex-slaves, have died in hurricanes and flooding in Jamaica. Not one politician who depend on the poor for our votes to keep them in power have been victims. And no member of the powerful private sector, the rich classes in Jamaica, have been victims. They have their resources. The politicians have the state resources, and they have their resources accumulated over centuries. they will never be the victims. Now, the flooding will always be with us. The question is, what has been the state response? What has been the state response to flooding in Jamaica? In 2020, October, we had 4 days of extensive flooding in Jamaica. It cost nearly $3 billion and loss of lives. The Prime Minister told the nation that his government would implement and no-build zones in flood-prone communities. Bagaway, nothing happened. In 2005, the then Director General of HODPEM, Dr. Barbara Carby, assured the nation that special action would be taken to prevent flooding and to help those persons affected. Nothing happened. Nothing at all. In his sectoral presentation 2017-2018, then Minister without portfolio in the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation, Dr. Horace Chang, told the House of Representatives that the government was preparing a comprehensive plan to deal with flooding. Nothing happened. The victims remain, the situation remain as it were. And if we have flooding this week or during this hurricane season, the poor and powerless again will be the victims. Nothing happened. Nothing has changed.
That's Desmond Richards, journalist and businessman, and founder of internet radio, Rebel Radio, Jamaica. And now to Endgame. One of the most painful realities of the waste of a life I can remember was given in some detail last week before and at the sentencing of a 17-year-old boy from Westmoreland, sentencing to life imprisonment for raping and buggering a 9-year-old girl and then strangling her to death. She was on her way from school in June 2018, 4 years ago, when he, a neighbor, encouraged her into bushes, ostensibly to pick apples. He sexually assaulted and killed her and left her in an awful way, her legs wide apart, her uniform drawn up to her chest, and her body savaged and torn. The details are awful and don't need repeating here, but I can't imagine how a 13-year-old came to be like that at all. I'm tempted to speculate, but won't. The judge in the case noted the disaffectedness of the killer. The fact he showed no empathy or sympathy, then or at his sentencing. He said the boy had deep problems. The 17-year-old, so young, his name can't be called, won't be eligible for parole for another 23 years and 9 months. He'll be 40. What went wrong? I leave you with the hope seen here of a royal girl, a queen, playing at school assembly at Denby High. This school is one of those helping to nurture our children. It has had a fine recent run in several areas, including academics. Vice Principal at Denby High in Clarendon, Diane Gordon, said, it's part of what they do. Music lessons, a band, and a choir, and all that. No big thing to her, but to us. Go there. She's royal. That's our podcast for this week. Thanks for sharing with your friends and those you like. And if you have not yet done so, please subscribe. Until then, I'm Franklin McKnight.